Welcome to Inside the Firm, a podcast dedicated to small business owners and hosted by entrepreneurs, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko. Each week, they take you on their journey of how to start, run, and grow a business by bringing you inside their architecture and real estate development firm. Get a behind-the-scenes tour of how these business leaders manage their clients and foster company culture while creating new and innovative projects. And now your hosts, Alex Gore and Lance Cayko.
Welcome to another episode of Inside the Firm. I am here with our main host, Lance Cayko, and I am Alex Gore. I want to welcome you to today's rocket ship, which is Revit Rocket Ship. You knew it was coming. It's your rocket ship to up your Revit skills. Go check it out at revitrocketship.com. Lance and I teach you the fundamentals of Revit, how to mimic construction and get the most out of Revit so that you can be productive and happy. Go to revitrocketship.com.
We're also going to need you to go to arccat.com. With project conditions changing and limited time to get things done, it's good to have information at your fingertips. Arccat.com provides architects, engineers, spec writers, and contractors with the most comprehensive libraries of building product content and designed so you can access it quickly and efficiently. Even better, this is my favorite part, arccat.com is free to use and requires no registration. So visit today and access the information you need now. That's arcat.com. Last and certainly not least, I need you to go check out PellaLuxury.com/the firm. PellaLuxury.com/the firm. Just by clicking on that link, you help support us and we help support Pella, which brings us to you each week. Very important. You've never experienced a brand like theirs before. The collection of brands within the luxury division of Pella are the conversation starters, the pioneers of industry who provide window and door solutions to discerning architects, the building industry, and beyond. They have decades of experience creating things no one else in the world is creating, and the collection of brands are brought together to complement and build on one another. They don't push beyond the limits, they set them. Again, that's PellaLuxury.com/the firm.
Lance, I got a question for you.
I have maybe an answer.
Did the government kill affordable housing?
It always kills everything.
so you're going to go with a strong yes.
Yep, that's a big yes.
All right, so I was on Twitter like people do, and I saw this interesting series of tweet by Hazel Borys, if I'm saying it correct.
Uh-huh.
And I'll pull it up, and I thought it was actually pretty well done. So I'll read these tweets for you. And there's a picture associated, so if you're watching on the line, you can see it. Tweet number 1, common neighborhood forms from the 1900s to the 1940s enjoyed livabilities thanks to gentle density. 21 units illustrated here on 0.75 acres or 28 dwelling units per acre. And then there's a nice picture of it. There's everything from what looks like a house to townhomes, row houses, to an apartment building with parking in the back.
Mixed use. Looks like there's maybe even a mixed use. Sure.
Yeah.
Nice and diverse.
Okay. But then tweet 2. But then the laws were changed to require larger setbacks and more parking. So naturally occurring affordability, which means like it's affordability by form, essentially. Affordability by scale from size. So naturally occurring affordability in walkable formats vanished from new constructions from the 1960s.
1960s.
Thank you. 16 dwelling units or on 1.22 acres or 13 dwelling units per acres. Then there's a picture, and you can see these large setbacks. And not only that, now we have landscape buffers on top of that, which basically bring in side setbacks a lot, is what I'm seeing. And then now we have all this fire code that doesn't allow you to do what you could do in the past. Okay. Tweet number 3. From the 1990s until now, got the townhomes back and garden apartments, but in auto-orientated formats, generally missing the sweet spot of 3, 4, 5, 6 unit structures. Illustrating here, the picture is of 11 units on 1.86 acres or 5.9 dwelling units per acre. A drastic reduction
got worse.
from the 1960s. That's half density.
That's drastic.
That's half density.
Yeah.
So did basically what they're saying is the setbacks and the less dwelling units per acre kind of killed it. And then also the car. Like, we always blame the car, and the car is only one of the factors.
Yeah. It obviously isn't the biggest factor. It seems like the setbacks are. It seems like the land use codes are the biggest problem. And moving ahead, the fight is against the NIMBYs, and there needs to be... So if you're looking for some kind of action, like what I would recommend is that everybody looks up, I think it's YIMBY. If you just look up YIMBY, there's on Twitter, I'm just doing it on Twitter, there's all kinds of accounts and people, and one, for example, that I like is called California YIMBY. It's a statewide advocacy organization working to pass legislation to end California's housing shortage by empowering and growing a very YIMBY movement. So if you're serious about this, it really comes down to, I think, forming a local coalition and being a YIMBY person and defeating the NIMBYs. Otherwise, we're just going to keep hurtling towards this unaffordability. I know several podcasters that are prominent in this sphere that insist it is not about a housing shortage. They just want to point to greed. I won't name names. If you're listening, you know who you are. I think you're completely wrong. It's not about the greed of the developers. The developers literally need the greed, a.k.a. a profit, in order to have some incentive to do what they want to do.
Well, you can. There's a way to combat the greed too.
Sure.
Competition.
Yeah.
Just competition. If me, you, and 10 other developers are competing for a sale of a unit, then you literally have to. If your product isn't better, or if it's the same, you have to lower price.
100%. Healthy competition. We talk about it all the time. Before we get into Mr. Andrew Tate, who's going to be our reader today.
Look at that.
Yeah, he's stepping in for Nick. Basically, they're the same person if you just look at them.
Yeah, I would say so.
Height-wise, masculine, muscle-wise, you name it, rhetoric, same thing.
Yep.
So two bullet points I kind of wanted to touch on today is, so recently we made the move internally to level up a couple people in our staff because we're losing somebody and putting them on the pedestal of, okay, you are a leader now, and you're going to start leading several staff members. And yesterday we had an internal meeting, and I kind of wanted to just point out for other people who are maybe thinking about making this move, like, how do you identify that person who is potentially a leader? And one of the things that we both noticed yesterday, two things that I noticed, maybe I'll have some to add on, is number one, just enthusiasm for it and wanting to do it and realizing like this is their path towards further senior staff levels, principals, possible owners in the future, all of that kind of stuff. So the attitude is first and foremost everything. Like, do they actually want to do it? Do you believe that they're going to do it? And then the other thing that is very critical that people might forget is, like, this is the nuanced one, is does that staff member show examples of seeing somebody else's work, the same kind of work that they were doing, and recognize that their method is better? So that is a strength through sort of leading. I don't want to say leading from behind.
No, humble leadership.
Humble leadership.
Yep. Yeah. And here's why it's kind of counterintuitive. Is because let's say Lance wants to be a leader at our farm and pretend I'm the boss, and Lance is like, yes, I want to be the leader, stuff like that. I think some people have the assumption that now I'm expecting you to have all the answers.
Yeah.
Right? You have to be correct. You have to lead the charge. You said you wanted to be the leader. But what was great instead was we were talking about organizing in projects, and everyone organizes them in their same way. And this next leader in our firm said, yeah, I was organizing it this way. Someone else at our firm actually has it a little bit better. So I'm going to update mine from theirs, and then that's what I'm going to tell this team to do. It was like, yes, that's what we want. Like, that is leadership.
That is leadership.
That is leadership. Mm-hmm. Not mine's worse, but I'm going to make everyone else conform.
And it's like my way or the highway is not the way to go.
No.
To sum it up.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with those two.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I had another sort of related news is I know people who listen to this show also have their own podcasts or are also maybe thinking about having their own podcast. You might ask yourself, like, what could a podcast even do for me? The obvious answer that a lot of people sort of gravitate towards, and we did right away too, is like, well, it would be interesting to get paid to speak. Like, and there's people know we have sponsors on this show, so clearly it's compensating for our time and effort that we put into it. We're bringing their message, but really what it's about is, so I interviewed for this podcast yesterday, and I was like past their interview process. So what it was is some of these bigger podcasts that you if people try to get on them, they sort of have like this intake form. They're like, apply to be on the show, and I'm like, sure, I'll try it. So I tried it, and I passed, and I got to a interview with them. So I had it was a non-recorded interview. It was off the line, and we sort of talked back and forth about what we do, and it was very interesting to listen. So this podcast is the top 5% podcast in the world, meaning they have over 1 million downloads every month. I'm excited to be on it. It's just foreshadowing. It's called Billionaires and Boxers. And this guy's from the UK, and it was so interesting to listen or to hear him say he doesn't. Two things were just struck me. One, he doesn't care about his audience. I was like, what do you mean by that? He's like, I'm using this podcast, and this is the second part of it that struck me. I'm using this podcast. It's not about sponsorships. He said, because as soon as I do the sponsorships, I'm cornered as to what my audience has to be, and the content that I'm making, people I'm bringing on, etc. None of our sponsors are like it, but I'm just saying this is what he was saying. And then he said, he goes, for me, it's about I am trying to connect with people that I can get something from, and they can get something from me. He goes, so to be frank, obviously you want to be on our show so you can get better exposure for yours and what you do. And I go, absolutely. Like, we're just man to man.
Calling a spade a spade.
Calling a spade a spade. And he says, well, to be frank for you, what I see is like, you're going to be my stepping stone to be able to show other architects that why they should have a podcast. Because one of the things I said, I'm trying to think about how we have used our show to leverage relationships in a reciprocal way. So like the law of reciprocity, which is sort of this unspoken thing, right? You do something for me, I'll do something for you, right? Sort of like you don't have to say it, it just happens, right? So I said, well, I have had multiple engineers on our show that we work with all the time. It gives them better exposure, and I think there's the reciprocity is that we are one of their few firms that they will work with for that. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast, let's say you're an architect, how could you leverage your show for you and for other people? What if you had on builders? What if you had on real estate people? What if you had on developers? And all of a sudden there's this law of reciprocity happening.
Yep. What if there was energy code that you wanted to learn about? So you had someone like that. What if, there was some area that you wanted to know about? Then you just have an expert on it too. So.
Yeah. Another really good example he had, and I thought about how we could leverage this, is he goes, in your industry, you have these conferences, right? The American Institute of Architects AIA conference, there's Autodesk University, there's the International Builder Show, there's probably like one of the green conferences or whatever. He goes, what I would do if you're getting invited to these as one of the podcasters anyway, he goes, 6 to 9 months from the point of when they're going to have when they announce that they're going to have their next conference, why aren't you reaching out to them and the people and saying, hey, I'm Lance Cayko. We have Inside the Firm podcast where we're, all these accolades and the download numbers and all the other things. Here's our podcast guest. You already have the legitimacy there, so you just kind of note that to them. And then flat out tell them that's like, I would love to help you. I would love to help you advertise and get more people over to your conference. So is there anybody on your side that would like to come on our show? Beforehand, and we talk about it.
I don't know why this is one of those things that I feel like what we do and we tell people and we think it's super obvious. This is like the revert, like that's super obvious.
Once he said it, it was super obvious, and he goes, and then And then because you're helping them sell tickets or whatever, you just flat out tell them that, like, I would like to. He goes, I'm happy to have you guys leverage our podcast for that exposure. What I would like is if we could, I would be interested in being one of your speakers. Could I be one of your speakers? And then all of a sudden you're leveraging it for not only your exposure, but obviously you get paid to be a speaker at these places like that.
Yep. And what I don't know, I love the whole idea. I don't think some of these pay their speakers.
Yeah, some of them don't.
Yeah.
Some of them. So it could just be exposure. That's why, I'm saying that.
Yep.
So, just some food for thought for this week. If we all head into the weekends, I know who's got some other food for thought here.
Well, let's hear it.
Here's Andrew Tate with Andrew Reads.
I say this.
Tenacity.
I say this all the time. I say the best things that ever happened to me are the worst things that ever happened to me. All the trauma and bullshit I've been through in my life are the best things that ever happened to me. Because as a man, if you've not had a difficult life, you cannot be good at being a man.
Do you have an example?
For me?
Yeah.
The worst things that ever happened to me are the best things that ever happened to me. Yeah. So I have a couple of examples. When I was a single dad raising my kids for 3 years on my own, it was one of the most taxing mentally, physically, and monetarily things that I've ever done. And what it gave me perspective on when things are or aren't that taxing, and it allowed me to handle more and honestly be more patient. A lot of folks think I'm a very impatient person, and I am in a lot of ways. But it's easy to see the impatience when it comes out, but it's very hard, I think, for people to pin down the patience. If something goes wrong on a job site, if something goes wrong with an employee, if something goes wrong with one of our design projects, I am not yelling about to anybody who screwed up. It is sort of it is what it is. We are here at this point. How do we move forward? What is the critical path, and how do we tackle these sort of problems? The second one is a big one, is the development. I think it's really interesting that Al and I we put ourselves in this position of being exhausted physically, mentally, monetarily for that. And I think my lesson, if I ever did another development, it would be one of the big goals besides completing it is when it's complete, that I don't feel vulnerable, that I have a positive energy about the whole thing. Because the other thing that Tate says in that interview, I'd highly encourage everybody to go check it out too. If you just go to YouTube and type in Andrew Tate PBD, it's Patrick something.
Valuetainment.
Valuetainment. 5-hour show, incredible. Might not be your flavor, but
well, if it's not, you should. If you've only had snippets of him, you should get the full thing.
Yeah,
that's all we're saying.
There's just so many quotes he has on there, and that was one of them that I grabbed from it to share with everybody today. But the big one of the other ones that stuck out to me is that he goes, I only surround myself with positive people, and I basically kick people out of my circle if they're negative, because negativity sticks and hangs in the air. Even if you have a bad morning and you fix it in the afternoon, that negativity is sticky. It's just sticky. So I think if I would have been in a more positive frame of mind at the end of it and not exhausted, exhausted, things could have panned out in a more positive way just because of the energy. And then the other negativity that was added into the mix at the end of it didn't help. Yeah. And maybe it could have been overcome through positivity.
Yep. I have two different ones. I like all of those ones. One is the obvious of getting laid off during the recession.
Oh, great one.
And then now here we are, right? Yep. And another fun one for me.
And literally, think about that. No. That was the worst. That was one of the worst things that ever happened to me and Al. Imagine graduating at the top of your class. Both of us did. And then, and through that, graduating top, leveraging our way into regionally and the world famous architectural firms, and then getting crushed, taking grown men down to their knees, kind of crushed.
Yep.
Physically, mentally, all of that. And then taking that negative energy and using it as a force for good, and then making F9 happen.
Yep. And then I have a fond memory of, because, tough times. There was one hilarious day in basic training where, you work out in the morning. all of a sudden, like, we're eating food out in the woods. Mine falls in the dirt, so I'm eating dirt food. Go through an obstacle course, get gassed, get smoked, rolling around in other people's puke. Like, literally people, like, quitting that day, just giving up. And so when I look at, whatever I'm doing, I'm like, at least I'm not eating dirt food and
Bingo.
rolling around in people's puke and getting gassed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not too bad.
Yeah. What do we got next?
Let's bring down everyone for ARE Jeopardy.
Let's do it.
Okay, question number 1. What does, in quotes, occupancy classification in the IBC stand for? Is it A, institutional, B, industrial, C, incidental, or D, imaginary?
What was the first one?
Institutional. B, industrial, C, incidental, or D, imaginary? Lift them. B? A? It's A. Question 2. What occupancy classification are agricultural buildings listed under? Is it A, Group U, B, Group I, C, Group S, or D, Group M? A, Group U, B, Group I, C, Group S, D, Group M. Okay.
Me? No.
Nope. They gotta lift them up. Let's see them. You went with I? What did you go with? It is Group U, which is what? Thank you. Utility and miscellaneous.
All right. Number 3. Name 2 accessible features that must be addressed when rehabilitating a historic building.
There's 2 correct
There's
answers.
2. A, main entrance. B, kitchens. C, waiting rooms. D, restrooms. Name 2 accessible features that must be addressed when rehabilitating a historic building. A, main entrance. B, kitchens. C, waiting rooms. D, restrooms. Doo-doo-doo. Nice, you just said it. What do you got?
I was going to go AD, but I switched to BD. I won't lie.
It is A. Good man. AD is correct. Reeves?
I had AD at first, and I was like,
All right, what do we got for scores? 2.
3.
Ooh, Ross attack. Number 4. What is SDC? A, seismic design category. B, statute of design category. C, state of design contributions. D, 7 design catechisms.
That one. It's that one.
E.
You put A. What do you got? Correct. The correct answer is A.
All right. What's the score?
2-3.
Ross got 4.
Yeah, but aren't you? Oh.
I made them play today.
Okay. Where are we going? We're going to
I
Chiba
love it.
Hut.
I love
This
Chiba Hut.
episode sponsored by Chiba Hut. Lance, take us out.
If you like this episode, you know what to do. Leave us a positive comment on the YouTube, like, subscribe, 5-star review on iTunes. We'll see you next week.